Right, guys, as we've steamrolled into August already, and like the next 10 days, 10 days are going to be okay, mid to high 20s degrees. So that's 10 days of August out of the way, and then you're looking at September then. So we could have maybe another two heat waves, maybe, which is great, because last year we had a whole month, which was kind of like it wears you down after a bit, just like the cold. I like the cold, but like if you get severe minus temperatures, you can. All you'd end up is either trying to keep cool in a heat wave, or trying to get warm, which isn't a problem in either scenario. But you're not getting much done, in the way of anything. Or at least in the cold, you can move around and get warm, and maybe dig some snow if it's snowing and that. Well, you've got to do the snow, as I've been through before. The reasons why. So I've found this trail, and people may not get excited about things like that. And, I'm just I'm only sharing this for like in case anyone's interested. They might be, and to feed into like why it's good for me and for anyone else actually who's trying to get in shape. Now, this track I found, the reason why I'm so excited about it is it's straight across the river, and you'd never know if you look at the slope from here. You'd never imagine that track would kind of be there. And it's straight above the house here, across the river, and well, you go up the valley about 200 metres, and then it comes back on itself, so you're coming back towards the house as you go up. And the thing I like about this track, and I've done a lot of tracks around these mountains with the dog and in the other valley, and some of them can be quite challenging, treacherous, and when the treacherous going up, they're twice as treacherous coming down, and they can jar your ankles and things like that. Now, the reason I like this one is because it's just the right gradient. It's around about there. It's the right gradient to give yourself a good workout, so you don't have to, stop and you're gasping breath, or you're climbing, actually scrambling, which a lot of the other paths you do get the odd steep bit, especially when they come back on themselves. That can be very steep, and that's where the vehicles always get. It's always difficult going around a hairpin, because that's when the wheels start digging in, and anyway, that's where it gets gnarly. That was the word. So this one, and underfoot, this one is like a carpet. I mean, some of them are like exposed rock in that. They turn into rivers, but this one doesn't look like it does. The rivers, the water's coming across it. So it's like a carpet, and like it's like a, well, if you were gonna design it, and with the gradient, it's not too bad coming down on your knees. Because coming down mountains and that is harder than, for me. It's twice as hard as going up sometimes, because you've already you've reached your kind of illusionary goal, or your goal actually should be getting back to your car or wherever you're going back to. That's when you've done it, because you can if you slip and you get coming down. It can be treacherous. Not this one. This is fantastic because it's just the right grade going up for a workout, a good anaerobic workout. Free, no subscription, free. That's all you need. A hill, and like the valley. If you're going to do cycling, you've got the lot here outside the front door, straight outside. If you're going to do, on a bike, get fit, it's the right grade. The valley. It's not. It's quite steep. Well, it's not, and it is, because it goes for uphill all the way. There's no letting up. And so yesterday I did about 1 kilometre, which, for the first day, in my state, you got to be careful about doing too much, because if you do too much and then you get stiffened up, you're not gonna. And I've done 2 days now of moving about. Like the first day was doing quite a bit in the gardening, and I went up to the back of the land and all that, and I was surveying the situation and what I'm going to do so I don't get flooded when the river swells. Well, the brook. And so it looks okay at the moment now. So I'm really happy about this, and I've tracked it actually. It comes up, not the first bit, that's just a footpath, but then the second bit is like, it's like a what they call a black road here, chair input. And that means it's just gravel or rock, or it's a track without any asphalt or really anything. But it's in quite good condition. The bit I saw, I only got to the road and then I came back. And there's houses up there. So I've tracked them, and I did a little bit of a measurement. You can measure on Google Maps fairly accurately, not ultra. There are maps which you can. So I've measured it, and up to where the houses are, they're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this is in the sticks. That's the middle of nowhere up there. And I didn't notice any. You can usually tell with the you just look for, if you see cables, electricity, that means there's a house or a settlement, especially smaller poles, not like huge ones, because they can be going cross country. But small poles, I didn't notice any, so they definitely haven't got internet up there. But I didn't see any electricity, so the shortest route actually is from our valley straight up where the houses are. It's about 2 kilometres up the valley and then straight up, and there's actually a few houses across the river there and a road bridge, and then it's straight up to these houses. And the other good thing about this is on Google Maps, it tells you also the elevation, and this is a decent climb, so it's all good news. It's fantastic. And there's a little flat section where you're going to have a bit of a respite halfway, exactly halfway, and it's 2 kilometres to the houses from the house here. That's including the little track that I measured, and then the others are measurable on Google. The road bit, the track is measurable on. It comes up on Google Maps, and so that's fantastic. So it's 4 kilometres. It'll be the total, and I could actually do a circuit. Actually, I could go down into the other valley, down the road. I know where it comes out. So it could go that way, but like there wouldn't be that much point unless it was, going to go. But you come past back through the square and up here. But 4 kilometres. That's a decent hike up all the way up, and the elevation is going to be around about 350 metres. And it's quite a bit of elevation, this first bit here. And it's steady. It's brilliant. It's fantastic. You could almost, I couldn't, not this stage, but you could mountain bike it if you're a fit young lad. Up, all the way up. And but like for walking, it's fantastic. The gradient, it's all in the gradient, and so you're not jarring yourself or exhausting yourself going up. It's good. Get you going. It's steep enough to get your lungs opened up, you know. So and it's doable. This is going to be doable every day of the year, even when it's really hot. You could get up there like now. Now it's about 8 o'clock. And it's cool, even on the hottest days, and even in the forest, it's even cooler. Now you wouldn't want to be going up there in windy days, because these trees come down regular. So if it's really windy, I wouldn't go up there, because the trees can they're like dead, very, very, very tall, slim fir trees. And you know, I don't think they're the original forest here. It was all mostly deciduous, and it's mixed now. But these fir trees, they may be original, because it's very, very, very steep, the terrain. Not the track, but the actual side of the valley. So maybe it is fir trees, because they're the only ones that could cling onto the sheer face. You know. Anyway, so that's a big success. So you don't need gymnasiums, not round here. You either get in the gulag and start moving rocks around, which is good exercise, or cutting wood. You've got digging snow. You've got all year round exercise, you know, and the wood needs moving. I'm going to move the wood, and it's drying out fantastic, because it's been very dry, the air. You can tell by all the cracks in the wood opening up in the logs. Now I'm going to move that because of this fact, because I might get away with just one summer just to dry it out, I think. But like I've got quite a bit. I've got almost enough for the winter of the old stuff, last year's. But even that it's not cracked up. I can see it through the door here. Even that's not cracked up like the new stuff. I mean, it really has been like a kiln drying outside. So, and then I've got to move that into the tunnel, but you've got to move it before you burn it. Like I've had to move that 3 times because I decided to stack it outside the house. But it's only like stacking's easy. I mean, you know, you just throw it to the bottom of where you're going to stack it, and then keep moving backwards and forwards. You know, it's good exercise, but it's not going to hurt you. You know, you're not straining yourself. You got to watch that with the rocks. You know, but I haven't got many big rocks, but I'm not bad at moving big rocks either. I've got some big levers there. I never lift them. I just roll them and manoeuvre them. You know, you can do that. Just wobble them and they just move. But big rocks. And then I've also got another project, which the mini digger said he was going to come back, and he didn't, to terrace the land. And that's a big job. That's a big job manually. But like, I can do I can do it a different way now, which will involve less work. I'd have 2 higher terraces and then a lower one instead of just 2, which I could have done with the digger, but like to move all them that tons and tons of soil, and it's not that hard because you're pulling it down the way I'm going to do it anyway. So these are all the things you can do to keep fit, and then when you get if you want a bit of an easier day, just do some weeding and stuff like that, which is that's pretty good weeding. Just steady, nice and steady. And, so there's all sorts you can do. All sorts. Keep fit. You don't need a gym. Just hard graft. And if you want a rest day, as I say, just potter about, which is generally what I do anyway. But now I've found this track. This is like the latest fad, and it won't be a fad. This will be a permanent jaunt up the hill. You've got to go in long trousers. And anyway, the builders, it looks like they've flitted. Now the big problem here is that they've got a foundation in up at the back up on the terrace. And it's quite hard to get all the materials up there. And the digger's thrown a load of rock up there now, but there's not enough. And when they mix the sand and cement, they've got to manually get it up these stairs. And there's 2 gangs, and there's 3 in each gang, and 1 in between. Well, generally about 7. In the whole squad, but they were fragmenting towards the end. They were coming on different days. Now whether they've fallen out, because they usually fall out about money or who's done what or anything, or someone's found a new job and they're alternating. So they've got a presence here, but this is how they do it, and it's through necessity. Because builders need continuity just the same as anyone else. They can't do a week's work and then sit around for a week if they want to make any money, What I used to do is get 7-day jobs and just do it constant for as long as I could, like 6 months, and you're doing almost a year then. If you do the Saturday and Sunday. And then your tax. This is where it's good to be a limited company, because you don't get hammered. If you pay as you earn, you get hammered for the 7 days, and then you don't get it back then. But with limited company, you can hammer it for 7 days, for 6 months, and then it's over the year. Because you work everything out over the year. So that's why I could come to Bulgaria. And one time I got this job in Redcar, which they've flattened now. Steelworks, the hardest job I've ever done in my life, hours wise. 7 days a week for almost 6 months. I was coming out in all sores, canker sores and everything. Because it was hard, and the environment, poisonous. It was it was a challenge. That was what it was. It wasn't a job. It was like I'm an engineer, get me out of here kind of thing, Could have made a documentary about it. It was that hard. And you had to wear a gas detector and skedaddle if the alarm went off. Otherwise you'd be collapsed and dead with the gas. But that was good. If you had a gas detector, you knew you were safe. Which was, it's not the best, is it, to going to work with a gas detector around your neck? But That's what you do. So these builders, and they're not local. So there's another problem for the owner. That, like, they've obviously, they might have been staying around here somewhere. You know, they've got a network, they roam it. They'll find somewhere to sleep, you know. And, like, once that breaks the momentum, say he says, like, I'm going to get some rocks up there, I'm going to get some, you know, have a day off tomorrow, they'll go back home. And then they'll get the feet up and maybe they'll find something then. And if they find a job near home, and that's not just here in Bulgaria, that's anywhere. That happens all the time, even in commercial construction. It's a revolving door, it really is. Especially in what, like, our game. Our game was like concrete frames. And these guys, a lot of them were like from Poland and that. And if one went home, they all went home. They used to have their own kind of breaks. And they'd go when its flights were cheap and stuff like that, you know. Or they'd say, right, we're going to do 5 weeks. But the job didn't go, you know, they were planning there was going to be a break in the job. And then they booked the flights anyway, and the job dragged a little bit, but they'd go anyway, and you had to get someone else. And then the other people might want to stay and then come back, and, you know, after. It's a revolving door, and it's the same with these lads. They'll be looking for the next job way before they finish this one, and so they haven't been here for 3 days. So they might have flitted. They might get him back. If the other job's like a week long and they've got nothing after that, then they'll come back, do that. But it drags your job out, you know. And he could even now start the house foundations. Now's the time. He doesn't want to be getting into winter and the rain. And we want the foundations in by then. And even the ground floor slab, I'd be looking at that, getting that in before, you know, the end of September. You can do that in a couple of days, you know, if you know what you're doing. We used to put foundations in for 2-3 houses a day. Well, semis every day, easily, you know. And some of them, you know, on these brownfield sites, they used to put a raft in. And that was a really good. They used to put 2 in, actually. If it was contaminated ground, they put one, just a great big concrete slab, and then build some foundations off that, and then put another slab on top because of the gases and all that. You know, you put a gas membrane on the first slab or underneath it or whatever. Anyway, methane and other gases, which they never told the people buying the houses, like it was on contaminated land. You're not going to tell people things like that, are you? But, like, anyway, got to build somewhere. But it was safe, you know. And some of them had methane, like in Liverpool. They had a landfill tip. Now, if you put proper piles right the way through that, you're okay on the sinking and settling. But they had methane connected into the houses. They had they have all these gas collectors, and then they pipe it all into a tank, and they were using it, the methane. I would have thought that I wouldn't fancy living there, really. You've got 2 things. You've got gas inhalation. You've got explosion. I wouldn't like to live on top of a landfill, but they did. Luxury houses. Anyway. And they knew. Everyone knew that was landfill. So these guys might have flitted. And this is the thing about renovating houses or building, any type of building. you've got to have a good network of like gangs of people. And when I was renovating here, I used to stop. Anyone was doing housing, it looked like they knew what they were doing. I'd stop and talk to them and say, like, when are you going to finish this? I might have something on. I don't know. Just give us your number and that. And then you know them, and you know them then as well, and you can see what they're doing as well. So that's a good thing if you're operating in an area. So I was doing it when I started this house, about 2005 or 6. I had 3 houses all getting renovated at the same time, which that was good because you can move the trades, the different builders around. Because some of them were, say a plumber, you could move him from plot to plot, and I did that a little bit. And I had some builders who did stick about for a while, and but one gang, this lad was he was top notch. Wasn't that easy to deal with, but the work he did in the last house was perfection. And he went to England. That was it. Gone. Weston-super-Mare. That's where he went. And he's been there ever since, I think. He was good. He got trained up in Russia with his dad. And he was just one of those guys. You get them. Now and again, you get lucky. And most builders are okay. And you find a lot of gangs, they carry people, especially if they're on hourly rate. And even we had concrete gangs, mostly Sikhs, and you get a car full, but you get 2 of them in the back seat, or 1 who they just carried, but he got paid. They just carried them. They were hopeless. You get 1 or 2 good guys. You get a driver and a good English speaker, not necessarily the driver. You get a good tradesman or 2, and then the rest were like also rans, but they came in carloads, Corollas, a Corolla full of Indians, and but they were pretty good on the concrete. The Indians, because the lads that they were carrying, they were just a donkey work, They'd do all the heavy lifting, and the others would be the good lads, the finishing lads. But they weren't as good. There was a couple of Welsh gangs that we had that were fantastic. They've got some good gangs in there, in North Wales, and they were good, but they were expensive. And our boss, he wouldn't pay them. He wouldn't. The Indians were much cheaper. But anyway. But if you get the job done, cheaper, and it's acceptable, fit for purpose, then that's it. But if you need a really good job, and when we were doing the big, huge, massive sheds, they call them, like units, steel frame units, they used to get these laser machines in. They're best. The only thing then, if you had a perfect flat floor, is you needed the concrete to be consistent. If you get concrete and there's more water content in, sometimes they add water for various reasons, if the pump gets clogged up or whatever. But you've got to try and avoid that, because if you get water in it, it will form. Even if you finish the concrete perfect, you will get dips in it. It's only a couple of mil, but that's because the water content. It'll go into the strata or evaporate. Concrete doesn't dry; it goes off, but you do lose moisture as that is happening with the heat. It's very hot concrete when it's when it's going off. It's warm to the touch, and if it's very deep, it's hot. Anyway, that's another story. So I think the builders, he might have some trouble now getting them back, unless they're doing the foundations as well, and they might be on, say, a week break. But it's strange that they've gone now because the weather's cool, and they were here in scorchio hot. Maybe they've exhausted themselves and they're having a break. All will be revealed, but like this is the name of the game in building and construction. That's keeping people and having other people lined up. Okay, cheers.